we covered last week in major detail regarding affordability checks and the announcement of the Josh Apiafi app regarding checking your bank 3 times a day in order to have a bet with your own money. Scandalous as though it may seem, some strange things have happened this week. I have been reliably informed from several racing journalists that they have been banned from talking about the Apiafi app. Why would you think that is, chap?
It's bizarre, isn't it? You think that a free press, they'd want to discuss issues that are absolutely critical to the success of the sport. And I've no idea, to be honest. Why would they ban that? It's odd. I've no idea.
Well, you'd only ban it if the direction of travel, what was wanted by the powers that be.
But that leads on to another question, doesn't it?
You would encourage the press to speak about it if you wanted a change of direction, you showed it.
Right, who are the powers that be here? Because James Noyes has resigned from his position advising Gambling Commission and liaising with the DCMS on potential policy.
Well, the BHA, the powers that be, but as people are probably sick to fucking death of me pointing out, they're in a terrible position as regards what they have to do in relation to what the bookmakers want. And the bookmakers still seem in favour of these affordability checks because they can use them to get rid of decent players.
But coming on to that, that's changed this week. That's why I'm covering it again, because something weird's going on. So James Noyes resigns, published a letter in full, which is very worth a read, because although it's got a lot of corporate diatribe in it, as you'd expect from officialdom in such positions, it basically says that James Noyes was being ignored on policy, and this is by the DCMS and Gambling Commission. This is where it leads on to what you were just saying, John, about the bookmakers wanting affordability, which is right to say so, but this week they're coming out with threats of legal action against affordability checks. Is this to do with the Apiafi app? I'll put this to you. The Apiafi app gets all the banking data. Whoever operates the app or owns that data, it's not the bookmakers. All the bookmakers see with the Apiafi app is the actual score. The bookmaker then will be required to either restrict a punter or ban a punter if that score is deemed too low. The fact now that the bookmakers are no longer in charge of the hen house, is this a change of tack? Because why now? Why would they come out now and say, oh, we don't want affordability checks? We never have. We've been too scared of getting big fines from the Gambling Commission. Well, they don't seem so scared now, John.
That is a puzzle. I don't know what to make of it, in all honesty.
For years, everyone's been screaming on affordability checks. Everyone. Every punter, except one set of outfits, Big Corp, like what you've just said, John. They wanted it for their own ends, their own means. They've got the data. They've got the control over who they can keep on and who they can fudge the Gambling Commission with figures. Oh, look at how many punters we've got rid of, whilst keeping the whales and the absolute degenerates, provide them with the profits that they've been used to. Now, with the Apiafi app, that stops, doesn't it?
Does it?
Yeah, because the Gambling Commission will presumably have access to this score data, and if bookmakers aren't taking action on punters with low scores, the Gambling Commission will go wading into them and start fining them for not banning X, Y, Z. I just want to know why they've gone on a complete U-turn.
Yeah.
It must be to do with the data, mustn't it? It must be control of the data. I think we said a long time ago that data is everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
All of these things. If you can collect data, you win the game, don't you? Because everything today is that whenever you go on the internet, they're collecting your personal information, they're profiling your spending habits, etc., etc., etc. So it must be that they've lost control or potentially losing control of the data. And that's what they want. They want data. I guess might sort of cause them to have done an about turn.
James Noyes used the word with the Gambling Commission as they refused to take his points on board. So there's only two things to that. Either they consider his points of view useless, right? Or there's something deeper at foot.
Yeah, it's a very, very odd situation. We are seldom lost for words, as regular listeners will know, but I can't fathom other than they're losing control of that data. But you're right, it does suggest that there's something below the surface that we're not party to, because it's been in a week, it's all of a sudden legal action. The Racing Post has been full of these articles. Every day there's articles about black market, affordability, etc., etc., whereas it was silence for months and months, or years, in fact. Absolutely years. No pushback at all.
Just finish on this. I don't want to drone on too long because obviously we spent a lot of time on it last week. But who do you rely on now in the racing media the most? Who would you say, do you know what? They're not really that bad an egg, are they?
This will surprise you.
Go on.
I think Dave Yates is about as open and honest as there is out there at the minute.
Okay.
Some of his takes aren't so great, but
I don't think they're honest takes. Like,
yes, I don't think you can fault that. I think as long as you've got a take and as long as you're not being paid by X, Y, and Z to say X, Y, and Z, then
I think his opinions are his own.
there you go.
I'm not that sure about many of the rest.
No,
agree with that.
I'm sorry about this. I know people say, they've been on your show. Chapman and Prasad. Chapman this week has done an article in The Sun.
Yep.
And really gone for an absolute verbal volley on it.
Yep.
And Prasad, I always think, after Twitter interactions, he said it in public that he's tried with the BHA, he's tried to talk to the Jockey Club. They don't listen.
No, they don't.
And so they're the two that I would put above the rest. I think the rest, as you have said, Chris, many a time, are more than happy to sit there writing blogs for bookmakers and they just don't want to upset the apple cart.
No, they don't. And you can see it. But they've suddenly sprung into action, haven't they? Even ITV has sort of got Hoyles down to do a piece on the betting ring. But something that's caused them to spur into action because it's all now all hands to the pump. All of a sudden, they're doing the things that you would hope they would have done years ago. And I fear it's too little too late.
I don't think Big Corp are bothered about that. Rather than have the Appy Harfy app or some third party get all the data, they'd rather them all scrapped and probably carry on like they were doing years ago when they were rinsing VIP whales and that sort of behaviour, which is why we got here in the first place. The harm groups would not have existed had they not rinsed people on the online slots. It's that simple.
You're correct.
That's it. We'll close it there. I think there's a lot of questions to be asked going forwards on that in terms of direction of travel that BGC are going to take, and there'll be a lot of political stuff. So I can only talk about what we sort of know about, but I do think the news blackout from certain media outlets, both television and print, have been forbade from mentioning the Appy Harfy app. So I'm sure it'll all play out. That's the way it is.